ordinary Americans who have done extraordinary things, and then they went about their way of life, some more prominent than others, with the respect and gratitude of a nation for what they did.
Retired Air Force Lieutenant General Nicholas Kehoe. Today on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Buell Thompson. The Congressional Medal of Honor is America's highest and most distinguished military decoration, recognizing extraordinary valor, courage, and sacrifice. Since it was first awarded in the 1860s, only about 3,500 members of the military have been awarded the Congressional Medal of Honor, many of them posthumously. In 2003, the Congressional Medal of Honor Foundation published a commemorative book profiling many of the honorees. Now, at the time, the head of the foundation was retired Air Force Lieutenant General Nicholas Kehoe. And it was him that I interviewed about this book. Now, we talked, actually, the day before Veterans Day in 2003. And this was at a time when America was freshly embroiled in war in Iraq and Afghanistan. In just a moment, our conversation.
This is one of the more than 10,000 interviews that noted radio personality Bill Thompson did over a 30-year span. Sit back and relax, unless you're driving, in which case, keep your eyes on the road.
So here now, from 2003, retired Air Force Lieutenant General Nicholas Kehoe.
First of all, the main purpose of the foundation is to perpetuate the legacy of the Medal of Honor and what it represents, and to tell the stories of these men and to pass those on to future generations, in particular the values of courage, sacrifice, and patriotism. All of that is portrayed in this book. And so you can, whether you start at the beginning with an elegant foreword by former President Bush, some very powerful essays by Tom Brokaw and John McCain, where they refer specifically to Medal of Honor recipients they knew and how it affected their life, or their respect for the Medal of Honor in a broader sense. And then you put in these profiles and portraits, very well done, bringing out the character and dignity of each of those individuals into a book, and then culminated at the end, very important, I think, with a 117th profile, which is on the Tomb of the Unknowns at the end. And most Americans might not know that the soldiers, and I use that term generically, who are interred at Arlington Cemetery in the Tomb of the Unknowns with remains from World War I, World War II, Korean War, and until not too long ago, the Vietnam War, have also been bestowed with the Medal of Honor. And tomorrow, on Veterans Day, the President of the United States will be at Arlington Cemetery to pay respect to those men interred there, but not only that, to all of the men and women who serve today, of course, and who go into harm's way every day and serve their nation in such a gallant way. So,
well, as has been pointed out so many times, and as pointed out in this book so eloquently, no one goes into a battle thinking, aha, today I'm going to get the Congressional Medal of Honor.
No, you're absolutely right. You don't predict the kind of situations that will come up, but it's such a wonderful tribute that the men and women we have, down inside, there's something that they may not even know they have, that when they're put into a situation, as is described for so many of the people in this book, that they rise to the occasion. And it's great to have Americans who do that, who will rise to the occasion and deal with a situation in a way that we almost can't fathom. And for that, the Medal of Honor, which is the epitome of the way that we have to say we appreciate what they did, or to say thank you, is at the very top of what's called a pyramid of honor. And we give lesser awards also, but the Medal of Honor stands at the very top, and that's why we have such great respect for these particular gentlemen who are represented from all the way back to World War II, the Korean War, Vietnam War, and the most recent actions for which Americans have received the Medal of Honor was in Mogadishu, Somalia, and both of those gentlemen were killed in action and awarded the medal posthumously. And by the way, an action which formed the basis for the book Black Hawk Down and the movie that went with it. So, And that's the last time that the medal has been awarded.
For now.
For now, that's right. It could happen at any time.
But I was just going to say, I mean, we have story after story after story in here of being, you don't want to say in the right place at the right time, but I guess maybe in terms of saving lives, they were in the right place at the right time. But you've been in combat for all, for a different turn of circumstances on one given day and one certain particular incident. You could have been sitting here as a Medal of Honor recipient.
I think any man or woman who serves today has the potential to be faced with a situation like that might require a response that is above and beyond as the medal citation reads. And but most of us will not face that situation, or we may or may not face it. One of the interesting things that Medal of Honor recipients like to say very often is they don't wear the medal for themselves. They wear that medal for the men and women who serve their comrades who may not have been recognized for something they did because nobody saw it, because the people who were there may have been killed, because many of the individuals who go into combat, pay that sacrifice with their life, and they wear the medal for all of those people, not just for themselves. Yes, their action was recognized, it was witnessed, it went through this very rigorous process and was approved by the President of the United States, and they were so bestowed with the Medal of Honor, but it represents something far beyond that. And these are just ordinary Americans who didn't ask for the situation to occur, maybe didn't even know that they could respond the way they did, but they did, and their nation is eternally grateful for that.
It occurred to me that this really speaks volumes about the status of the United States military that you've got, that you can almost randomly pluck a teenager out of here, a career serviceman out of here, somebody from the Air Force over here, somebody from and in any particular circumstance, any one of these guys or women could wind up with a Medal of Honor.
Well, we'd certainly like to think that the quality of the young men and women that serve in uniform, that the training that they get, that the leadership that they have prepares them, and just the fact that they have this spirit inside of them, they become members of a team, all of whose lives depend upon each other, and that if faced with some kind of a threat, that their response would be on behalf of that group that they've trained with and that they've gone into battle with.
Now, I've never been in combat. You have. You have probably a better idea than I would ever have of why someone in a given circumstance would put themselves purposely in harm's way to try to either save lives or prevent further loss of life or do something like what's the step, what's the boundary that you have to step over as a human being to go from self-preservation to self-sacrifice?
Well, I won't pretend to be able to describe it because it didn't happen to me in that regard, but I will say that one of the things that you're trained to do and that you feel as you are put into harm's way is you feel this tremendous camaraderie with your fellow soldiers, sailors, airmen, Marines, and so on, in a way that you do care about their life. And it means you may risk your life to save them. And that theme runs through these stories in a very profound way by comparison to what we normally would think we might experience. Certainly the average soldier is not faced with that experience from a day-to-day standpoint, but isn't it wonderful that when they are, that they will respond as these men here did, and make us proud that they are willing to serve their country and they are willing to put their life on the line. And not to forget, we have people today in Iraq, Afghanistan, and all other places around the world that these young men and women do exactly that on a day-to-day basis. And you never hear about it, some of it.
I was going to say, it's not. I mean, there are some names in here that are household names now by virtue of the fact they've gone on to illustrious careers, but most of these men in here, most people have probably never heard of.
That's right. And I think the best term I've heard for them are ordinary Americans who have done extraordinary things, and then they went about their way of life, some more prominent than others, some very famous, others who just went back to doing what they did best as Americans who contribute to their society, and with the respect and gratitude of a nation that for what they did, and they don't make great fanfare over what they received. But again, I'll come back to what I said before. They all understand that the medal that they wear around their neck, the Medal of Honor, is something very special, and it puts them in a category where they represent something more than themselves. And that in itself is a great challenge in life, to learn how to live with that, and to how to represent the medal, and to be a role model for young people, whether they're in the service or not.
After this short break, Lieutenant General Nicholas Kehoe talks about what courage really means.
If you've ever wondered where to find the captivating books we discuss on Now I've Heard Everything, wonder no more.
Just tap the link in our show notes or visit our website, heardeverything.com.
Plus, when you purchase through our affiliate links, you're not only diving into great stories, but also supporting this podcast.
And we thank you for your support.
Now back to my 2003 conversation with Lieutenant General Nicholas Kehoe.
I said courage, sacrifice, and patriotism. Now, those are generic words. These men received the Medal of Honor for gallantry in action, for valor, for bravery. But the word courage can apply to each of us in our daily life, in various situations. And everybody at some point in their life faces a situation that requires courage to deal with. And if we can help through these role models in very different types of situations, then we've been very successful. Same with sacrifice. These people put their lives on their line for their country. Sacrifice has a couple of connotations. One, that you're willing to put yourself in jeopardy, not necessarily your life every time, but you're ready to call the shots the way they are for the right reason, because it's the right thing to do. You're willing to give back to the community when you've been bestowed or benefited from the various things that our nation has been able, bounty that our nation has been able to give to us. So sacrifices means giving back, and that's quite significant.
I would imagine you've probably met most of the men in this book, haven't you?
I've met a good number. I joined the foundation in March of this year, when the pieces of this book were just starting to be put together, and I've attended one of their annual conventions. So I've met many of them, either as a result of the work we were doing on the book, and another project that we've been working on is to film these gentlemen while they're still alive, and to preserve their stories for future generations. So we have what's called a living history project to put these gentlemen on tape, to have them tell their story and tell about their values and that they see associated with this medal that they wear, and to preserve that, because there will never be a large number of recipients. And as I think I said earlier, the average age today is over 70. So they're getting on in years and passing away at, unfortunately, a fairly rapid rate, as mortality reminds us from regularly. And
but I would guess having conversations with them, I mean, it's stirring enough just to read about them in a book, but I would imagine when you would sit down with them and actually get a chance to sit, like close like we are, and look them in the eye and hear their voices, and hear, maybe the slight tremble in their voice when they tell you their story, maybe see a tear start to form in the corner of an eye. That's got to be overwhelming for you.
Yeah, it's too bad this is on radio. I have a videotape, and it's excerpts from interviews of these living recipients as they were being interviewed for these living histories, and it's put to the music of Aaron Copland's "Fanfare for the Common Man."
Yes,
and it is eye-watering, to say the least. And to see these men who have told these stories over and over and over again come back to, as they tell them, what it meant to them, and what it meant to save their buddies, or what it meant to fight for their country or to defend their country, and there'll be a tear in their eye, let alone mine. So, yeah, it's very, very heartwarming, and it's emotional to do that. And you never tire of hearing them tell that what that means to them. That's what's so inspiring about all of this.
Well, especially now that the nation seems to have finally woke up to the idea of the greatest generation, especially. I mean, there are heroes, of course, from all the wars, but in particular, I think we're now beginning to realize just what these men who we've sent in uniform off to a strange land to risk their lives have done for us.
Yeah, I think there's a great part of the Tom Brokaw's essay where he was walking on the beach at Normandy with a guy named Gino Murley, who's in the book, since passed away. And Tom says in there that it was during that walk on the beach with this Medal of Honor recipient where he germinated the idea for the greatest generation. When he realized just what sacrifices all of the men and women who served, not just Medal of Honor recipients, what it meant to our nation, and how much respect he had for them. And much of that started with that one encounter with just one man that he knew.
Now you can get your copy of Medal of Honor by the Congressional Medal of Honor Foundation by tapping the link in our show notes, by clicking the link in the description below if you're watching this on YouTube, or by going to our website, heardeverything.com. We may earn an Amazon commission if you make a purchase. Heardeverything.com is where you can also find my 1996 conversation with General Colin Powell.
The only thing I've ever wanted to do in my life was to be a soldier. Nothing ever came along that really excited me or pulled me away from my devotion to soldiering.
And my 1992 conversation with one of the original Tuskegee Airmen, General Benjamin O. Davis, Jr.
What we were able to demonstrate and achieve in World War II would be a determining factor in the future of blacks in the Army Air Corps and in the armed services of the United States once World War II was over.
And of course, we post new episodes of Now I've Heard Everything every Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, and you can find us everywhere you find podcasts. And thank you so much for listening. Next time on Now I've Heard Everything, he's gaining a national reputation as a leader in the battle for LGBTQ inclusion in the church. An all-new interview on Now I've Heard Everything with the author of the just-published book Queer and Christian, Reverend Brandon Robertson.
The problem is actually not these 6 verses that talk about sexuality. The problem is the way conservative Christians understand the Bible, understand God, because it's just ahistorical to say that the Bible is the inerrant word of God. The Bible's a human text. It has errors within it.
That's next time on Now I've Heard Everything. I'm Bill Thompson.